Today I want to take you through the kind of like the creation of this jolly running teapot. It was based on this walking teapot of Pixar Renderman, and I thought I will recreate this as an AR using Blender. So yeah, let's get started. Oh, I'm actually using animation nodes for this. So the whole thing is actually procedural. The running is around 180 frames. I make it like that so I can easily make the running is looping. So the running itself is not 100% perfect. I'm not super happy with the leg, the foot part, but yeah, I think that's kind of enough. It's good enough for now. I do like the upper body part. That's that has this kind of eight kind of looping motion if you look at it from the front. When I'm doing this, I actually have two screen, and the other screen is showing the other side, like from the front or from the right side. So that's how it looks from the side. From the front, it's giving this motion, kind of like the hip, human hip, and the leg. But yeah, so let's have a look how I created this. So like I said, this is animation nodes, and we only have three parts: the body, left foot, and right foot. At first, I was gonna make this like a walking teapot, but running to loop a running is actually easier. There's actually something wrong if you're an animator. You know this part is kind of wrong because the leg is kind of never really planted on the ground. But that's okay. Let's just have a look at the body first. Oops. Yep. Let's separate the body. So it looks like that. This is the body, the body animations I made using animation nodes. I can make it faster and slower. It's all depending on this. So let's make it slower. So this is almost like walking, like very casual, slow walking in the afternoon. I have so for the whole animation, it's basically a sine and cosine wave. It's all procedural, and it's all based on that. If I separate it, this is the motion of the rotations only. This okay. Let's try start with the movement on the X. So side by side motion. That's pretty easy to do. So for the X, so I have the initial transform of the teapot. So the original positions, all I'm doing is actually just offsetting from that position. So look at this combined vector and the one that's coming into the x-axis. That's basically it. It's just a cosine, and I'm multiplying it with the number so I can control how far it goes to side by side. The next one is the y-axis. I actually don't have anything on the y-axis. Y is like it's doing that. Sometimes some people when they walk or run, they're gonna do this, or maybe they don't do that too much if they're running. But the way this teapot running is actually more like Sonic the Hedgehog. I think maybe something not quite right. I think the legs need to move faster. Yeah, but if you look at Sonic the Hedgehog, when it runs, maybe only maybe three keyframes make it seems like the character is running. So the Z up and down, very important. Definitely, when you're running, you actually don't do the up and down too much. So that I could reduce that simply by maybe multiplying it with less. or actually ups and down. Oh yeah, this is less ups and down. If I turn on the leg, now I should make this faster. So when character running, oh yeah, the legs doing that too much. That's why it looks weird, slightly weird. But yeah, with the position of the teapot, I can still offset it. So see, I'm offsetting the y-axis. So if the if the teapot is actually a bit taller, I think the motion of the leg is slightly weird, but it's okay. Next one we want to check is the rotations. So this rotations is easy. It's in the X. I'm using the Euler, this combined Euler. Look at combined Euler. This one is just a kind of like a multiplier. But what's coming in is really just a sine wave. Again, it's just a wave kind of motions, movement back and forth on the X, and the next one is on the Y. Yep, this one is actually crucial. The X, Y, Z. Let me check. What's the Z? The Z didn't do much in here. Oh, because I didn't turn it on. Wait. So the Z is actually doing that. Some character doing that when they're walking, if they're really happy and jolly. But the Y is really what is doing it. So let me arrange this a little bit better. So the X, the Y, is that both of them are sine wave. One of them I assign speed of 2. Maybe I can show you what happens if I increase the speed. Maybe slow down the speed. Oh, I didn't do much. Oh, because I have another multiplier here. So that's kind of like crazy teapot. Yeah, this one. If the teapot is like really heavy, maybe it's doing that, but the movement is gonna be slower. So the science of walking is really interesting, I think. If you look at it, even just from the animation, the rest of them is actually just the leg. Maybe a little bit harder to explain. Some of them is kind of the invert of the others. Let's look at it. Let's look at one. I started with the left leg. I think the left leg is controlled up here. So you can see when you look at the notes, you start from the last note. So this motion, again, let me turn off everything. So the X, side by side, following the top part of the teapot or the body, and then back and forth on the Y. Actually, on the Y, I could improve that. Let me save this really quick. I'll give you the blend later. So this is I believe this is the offset. I should give it a different color, just a slight offset, and then so it's moved in the y-axis maybe too much, a little bit too much. So I should reduce this. So reduce to 0.5 or 0.2 even. Oh, I know. Maybe I should not do that. Oh, it's creating like a round motion. So it's not gonna look so nice. The other one is actually the ups and down of the leg. But this is also kind of correct, like in a quotation mark. in a way the leg is doing that kind of motion, circular kind of motion, and maybe that if you have a leg, this part is probably doing kind of motion, that kind of motion, but it needs to be planted and then going up. So it's kind of, the shape is kind of looking like this, not circular. So I need to make this kind of shape using all these numbers and procedural ways. It's possible, but I know it's a little bit harder there. And then we have this motion of the rotations. This part is actually slightly tricky. We have X, Y, Z, but I think the Z doesn't do much. If I make it in the Z a little bit like that, it's more natural, like a character, but mechanically that's not very possible, I think, because this is like, there is a real walking teapot if you search online. It's like a mechanical toy, and it's similar to this. What I do find it interesting is that it's the speed of running. If you do it, you have to time it really like correctly. If it's wrong, it's looking okay. It's looks really weird. It's kind of like the legs going crazy. With the right speed, however, the character looks almost like running properly. So of course this is looking very mechanical, but it's kind of okay for now. So the left and right foot, what's interesting is how they both kind of need to be mirror, but what's happening here is actually the offset. What's important is the offset of the time. So I believe there's a multiplier here, but for the other leg, I have an offset. An offset is always represented with an add, so I'm adding a number into the time, so it's kind of offset with the animations. Would be nice is if actually we can bake it. We can bake the whole thing, and then we can see, okay, that's how actually the animation is looking. So I did that exactly actually with this in order for me to export it out as an AR for Apple USD. I need to bake it out. So file, actually with this, go under developer, there's a bake somewhere. Okay, under overview there's bake to keyframe. It's gonna bake 180 frames. I'm using 180 so I can loop the cycle. Now that it is baked, if I go under animations and graph, look at the graph editor, you will see the motion of each part of this. So that's it's looking something like that. If you manually animate this character, it's also gonna look interesting. You can study that basically. This is the leg, and you can see there's an offset. That's the offset basically. This part and this part. Maybe I can draw. Oh no, I cannot draw. So if I select just the X, maybe I show only the selected curve keyframe. So the X location. So yeah, that's the X looking similar to Y. So there's, in the Y location there's an offset there, and the Z also there's a bit of offset. The height is not the same somehow. With the rotation also there's an offset, clear offset. Sometimes it's just a sine and cosine. If I can flip that. Sometimes I'm using both sine wave. Yeah, this part is not so fun anymore. But what I find it interesting is when it is like this, and then you can adjust and tweak the parameter, so you can see a different motion. Let's say with the body, for example, if I made a change, where do I want? Just play around with the number and then see what's happened. So this, see this motion, and then side by side, and then the ups and down. Okay, that's definitely very, very jolly looking teapot. It's a lot of ups and down. Sine wave, like if you increase this, I mean, that's a bit crazy, but you can have like a double like a bouncing ball. So bouncing ball, I almost forgot that term. If I increase this somehow, we're gonna have like double bounce. Oh, that's too much. Because again, this is only like a sine wave. Where's the indicator of ups and down? Interesting. I don't have it. Oh yeah, it's the Z. The Z axis ups and down is from here. So that's the multiplier for the sine, but here I think that's for the double bounce. There you go. And go back to the feed, turn on everything. Yeah, this looks a very happy teapot. Yeah, I think this part I don't like, but it's a good idea maybe to draw it using grease pencil, and then kind of, okay, this should move like this, and then this should move like that, and then you keyframe the leg manually. And after you do that, after you have all the keyframes, and then look at the curve in the graph editor, and then try to replicate that using procedurally, using math, basically using formula. Yeah, I think that's actually pretty much it. I think I will improve it again in the future, but I do like the top part. It's almost like a real character moving. The leg part, not very happy, but I'll make this moving. This is like a cycle, like a loop. Remember, with loop, very likely you're gonna use sine wave, any kind of formula, so that you can have a graph where the first and the end frame is the same, and it's gonna loop. So loop in animation is very important. Again, like loop, and like just like a bouncing ball, if you add like a repeating motions, you can study it, and then you can really get into the animations, like what's the essence, what's making the animation interesting. Like walking doesn't have to be cycling as well. Sometimes it's like almost like a music jazz. So you can have walk that's kind of have a bit of characteristic in it. With this rig, of course, it's not like a proper rig. It's only like 3 parts, and 3 parts, each part have motion. Like I do like this kind of motion on the body, and then the circular, that's easy to make using sine and cosine. What's a little bit harder is something like this. If you're clamping, I mean, clamping is not hard, but there's a different kind of motion. But I'm holding D, by the way, D, and then you can draw. That's for the grease pencil. That's actually animatable also, just in case you didn't know. All right, so yeah, I'm using animation nodes once again, and this is how I would animate a character like this. It's good for mechanical kind of motion. In this case, the walking teapot. If you search online for walking teapot, you will see the real thing. Yeah, someone gave me a walking teapot at some point. Thanks, Moxie, for the teapot. I still keep it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you find this useful. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Bye.